In about 1999, right after I graduated high school, what happened was I was driving and I was in a hurry to get to a college class. And the police pulled me over for what I thought was speeding. I got out of the car to wait for the police to come, but he told me, no, you need to stay in the car. And then the police informed me that it wasn't because I didn't get pulled over because I was speeding, it was because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. And I said, okay, fine. So after another few minutes, they also told me that they had a warrant for my arrest, and I was very surprised. So we waited, and two more police officers arrived at the scene, and they arrested me, and they handcuffed me, and they put my arms behind my back. And after they put my hands behind my back in handcuffs, I told them, I can't talk. I need to be able to write back and forth with you, otherwise I can't communicate with you. So they said okay, and they let me take one of my hands out of the handcuffs. So we were discussing a few things. I was asking them, what are they going to do with my truck? And we were discussing those things. And then I asked them, what is this warrant for? And they said, oh, it's because it's from an old ticket that you never paid off. And I said, oh, okay. So I arrived at the police station and they had me fill out some forms. I did some fingerprinting and they took pictures of me, mug shots. And, well, I was having a hard time tolerating it, but I was very patient. But you have to remember that I was only around 19 years old at the time. They put me in a very small cell, and I told them that I needed to call my wife, but the police officers would not let me make the call. They didn't have a TTY, and they wouldn't let me contact an interpreter or anything, and it was about 6 or 7 in the evening. They finally found a TTY, but it was not in that building. It was in another building close by, but it was locked because it was closed for the evening. So they said, too bad. But they found the information from my warrant, and they tried to call my wife, but they couldn't, no one was home because, well, they tried to call my wife, but at that time I was in the process of paying for my house, and I was living with my wife's parents, but when they called, there was no one home. Then what happened is they decided to call my dad without telling me. I didn't know that they were calling my dad. And oh, when I found out, I was so upset. So they called my dad and told him about the warrant for my arrest, and when he found out, he was so pissed off, and I couldn't do anything about it. I had no control over the situation. So about 3 or 4 hours later, my wife arrived and my dad arrived, and I tried not to complain, but even though I really wanted to, I was very patient. I mean, it was my mistake. My wife brought money to pay off the ticket, or the old ticket that I hadn't paid off yet. She paid it off, and it was around $50, so it really wasn't much of anything. And then I was excused from not wearing my seatbelt. This incident happened about 20 years ago, or more like 15 or 16, 17 or 18 years ago. It was a long time ago, and at that time people were telling me that I should, complain about what happened there. And at that time, yeah, I thought I should complain about what happened, but I was young. It was my mistake. But I learned a lesson from that, so now I know if this ever happens to me again, I know what I need to do.